Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/MaliciousCompliance, where people follow orders to the letter to spite someone. And in today's episode, power-tripping bosses are getting taught lessons by their employees, guys. And one OP tells a story about the time they obey their boss's orders and it ruins the place. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I'm currently 31 weeks pregnant and I work as a water filtration operator. Every 4 weeks, me and the other operators rotate on the maintenance shift, where we work under this particular supervisor who we'll call Randy. Now, the thing with Randy is he likes to think he has more control than he does have. And honestly, the plant supervisor just lets him think that. About a month or so ago, I was working with him, and the guy tells me to pick up a 45-pound nitrogen cylinder. That's when I politely remind him that I was pregnant and I shouldn't be doing that. To which he smugly responds that since I don't have light-duty paperwork, it shouldn't be a problem now, should it? I just sucked it up and I lifted the cylinder and carried it to the destination, but I received a pulled muscle in the process. The next day, I informed the plant supervisor and a work injury report was filed. My statement was taken and that caused Randy to get in trouble because he knew I was pregnant and he essentially caused the injury to happen. They took me to a nurse to make sure that my baby was fine and I was okay, and I wasn't experiencing any complications from the injury. Now I wasn't, other than being in pain if I moved too much. So they sent me on my way and the plant supervisor puts me on desk duty for the day. Randy was livid, of course, because he lost some of his manpower on the maintenance team. He made a huge fuss about me not having light duty paperwork. He said if I didn't have it, then I should be capable of doing the work that's needed around the plant. Now, I was capable, I just used common sense. Prior to this incident, I did my job to the fullest, within the limitations of my body, which wasn't that much. I rested when I needed to, didn't lift more than my body would allow, and most importantly, I was the only female out of 7 employees, so my other coworkers were more than willing to help me if I asked. So the plant supervisor calls me into his office and he requested that I go get my light duty papers from the doctor as soon as possible. That's the only way he could protect me from getting further hurt at work. I told him I understand and then made the call to the doctor's office and I picked it up that afternoon. I got the paperwork that was supposed to keep Randy quiet and it restricted me as such. Number 1, no stooping more than 2 times an hour. Number 2, no climbing ladders or poles at all. Number 3, no climbing more than 3 flights of stairs a shift. Number 4, no lifting more than 25 pounds. Number 5, no standing more than 30 minutes out of each hour. And lastly, limit contact with chemicals. These orders, of course, make it very difficult for me to do my job fully, as it basically limits me to either desk work or cleaning. Now, I know this list is BS because I can definitely stoop more than 2 times an hour. I might be out of breath coming back up, but I can do it. And the climbing more than 3 flights of stairs is ridiculous because that means I can't do all of my rounds. Someone else has to do the last set for me because you climb a set of stairs every time. Now, under normal circumstances, I would be more than happy to bend the rules here to make everyone's lives easier. But honestly, he's the one who bitched and moaned for me to get this paperwork, so I plan to make full use of it. So far, since I've received this paperwork, I keep a checklist of all the things I can't do and fill it like a bingo card. If I fill all of the things, I go to the office because that means I can't do any more physical work on shift. And he has a bad habit of tossing a lot of work my way in the beginning of my shifts. Yeah, so reading this post, I can't help but wonder if Randy was on purpose targeting OP or something. Like, I'm not saying OP should have had it easy, but any decent person would have cut the pregnant lady some slack, right? At the very least, help her or something. But that's just me, and guys, I don't know if my opinion is unpopular or not because a lot of people seem to agree that Randy did nothing wrong. People say if you don't have a doctor's note, you need to keep doing the tasks you were hired for. Doesn't matter if you're pregnant. Let me know your thoughts though. So I used to work at a mid-sized company where the department had its own supply closet. Everyone knew the rules. You take what you need, don't hoard, and you keep the area tidy. Simple enough, right? Apparently not for the new micromanaging office manager, Karen. This woman came in and she was obsessed with cutting costs. She'd swoop in like a hawk every morning inspecting the supply closet. If a box of pens was a little lighter or the post-its weren't perfectly aligned, we would get a stern email about unnecessary consumption. She even implemented a sign-out sheet for supplies. If you want a highlighter, you'd better justify it in writing, and then prove that the old one wasn't working. Well, one day, Karen decides to escalate. She puts a lock on the supply closet, and she declared herself the sole key holder. If anyone needed something, they had to email her and wait for her to approve the request. This was, of course, on top of her other duties, so getting a new pen could take hours. Needless to say, productivity starts to suffer. Cue the malicious compliance. A coworker of mine, whose name Tom, was a bit of a prankster, but always stayed within the rules. He decides to test Karen's new system to its limits. Every time he needed something, no matter how small, he would email Karen. Need a single paperclip? Email. Need to replace a dried out marker? Email. The stapler was jammed? You guessed it, email. Tom's meticulousness inspired the rest of us, and soon, the entire department was flooding Karen's inbox with requests. Since Karen insisted on handling every single one personally, she quickly became overwhelmed. Approving requests start taking days instead of hours, and meetings were delayed because people didn't have notebooks. Presentations were stalled because somebody was sitting waiting for a dry erase marker. Management, of course, started noticing the bottleneck. Our department's performance metrics were plummeting, and everyone points the finger at the supply chain fiasco. Karen tried to defend her system, claiming that we were being wasteful and we need structure, but the evidence was clear. Her plan was backfiring. After a disastrous week, upper management steps in. They not only revoked Karen's authority over the supply closet, but they gave her a formal reprimand. The lock was removed, the sign-out sheet disappeared, and we went back to the honor system. Karen, humiliated, kept a low profile after that. As for us, we may have lost a week of productivity, but the petty satisfaction of watching Karen drown in her own bureaucracy was worth every second. You know what? Lost a week of productivity, but gained a week of team building is what it seems like. And guys, I just love the fact that everybody in the office knew the assignment and they just band together against Karen. But seriously, LOL, right? All that to protect what? Like $100 worth of office supplies, Karen? Like there are so many things to do as an office manager, I'm sure. And Karen seems to think that she needs to gatekeep the supply room to prevent people from stealing pens and highlighters from a company that probably generates millions of dollars of revenue per year. Some frickin' people, right? I was working for a small local store chain that had 17 stores across the state. I was paid $1 over minimum wage. Apparently, the place had decent benefits if you were full-time, but they made sure no one was. Then, last week, the entire staff at a different store quit all at once. I didn't think much of it until our boss's boss came in and he said he needs people to go cover that store. And that store was 42 miles away. So I ask if we get any sort of raise or gas money, and he responds, no, we don't pay you to drive to work. I asked, will we work 8-hour shifts? He said, no, you're all part-time employees. Of course, everyone starts voicing their disapproval. Half of us don't drive at all, and most share a car with a family member. We're making maybe $20,000 a year, and now they want us to drive over 1 hour each way in traffic to work a 3 to 5 hour shift. Well, the manager gets upset, and that's when he says to us, I'll be back tomorrow, and I expect 4 volunteers. If you don't want to be a team player, I suggest you find another job. So I and everyone else in our store did just what he suggested. I went online and I found companies offering entry-level positions for several dollars an hour more, and some even had a signing bonus. I had 2 interviews set up the same day, and I ended up taking a warehouse job that paid $3 more an hour and had a $1,000 bonus after 120 days. 3 other coworkers got a job there as well, and we're encouraging everyone at our store to apply. Apparently the job market's gone crazy lately, but none of us were really looking, and we didn't realize we were underpaid. Good for OP and everyone else there, because the boss sounds like a mega a-hole, and the guy's probably eating his words right now. It's either that, or he won't see any of his actions as the cause, and it's just entitled workers wanting a handout and not knowing what hard work is. And this person shares their similar situation when dealing with an a-hole boss who told them to quit. This person says, "So I work at a small store. My manager quit, the assistant manager got fired for stealing money, and 2 other employees quit because of the new workload. And I, the only one who didn't quit, am expected to do everything. So I told my district manager that I expect a temporary increase to $29 an hour, plus overtime to account for the extra work outside my job description. And this amount isn't random. It's the sum of mine and my manager's wages. If you expect me to do the work of 5 people, you need to pay me." He says no, and that I'm not expected to do any more than my agreed upon job description. His exact words were, "You just need to keep doing your job. No one's expecting you to do the others' jobs as well." So I do just that. I don't do the deposits, the security briefings, the sales reports, the containment inspections, etc. All those tasks are outside my job description. Of course, the district manager gets mad, saying none of the work is done. I say to him, "You told me you weren't going to approve my temporary wage increase because you weren't expanding my job tasks. Therefore, I only did my job." Well, hearing me say that, he throws a fit about me obviously misunderstanding him, and that's when I stopped him and I said, "I didn't misunderstand you. I told you that I would not do any extra work without extra compensation." And I should also mention that I went from working 15 hours a week to 75 hours a week. He then called me lazy and greedy because, quote, "You just want to make a quick buck, and if you're not going to do the job, then quit." And I just thought to myself, yes, that's indeed how this whole employment thing works. You need the job done, I agree to do the job for payment, and you pay me to do the job. So with that, I quit. Have fun working the entire store by yourself, without overtime, because you are an exempt employee, district manager. When I was going to college for criminal justice, for those curious, I had taken up a part-time job working at Waffle House as a part-time prep cook, under the delusion/promise that they would work with my schedule. Everything was fine for the first half of the semester. I was finishing classes at 3 p.m., getting dressed for work, and then clocking into my job at 5 p.m. sharp to work from 5 to 9 p.m., 5 days a week. Then comes the finals, which in my college ran a different schedule than my actual classes for some reason, and don't ask me why, I don't work in administration. My Monday and Tuesday final were okay, as they finished by 2:30 p.m. Wednesday's final finishes at 4:30 p.m. And Thursday and Friday's finals start at 2 and they finish at 5. Now, since college and my job were across town, I was either walking, taking the bus, or riding a bike. I knew I wasn't making it on time to clock in at my scheduled time for Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So as I handed my final schedule to my manager, I had asked for a later work times those 3 days, or let me work that weekend to make up for the time I'd be missing. When I did that, the manager replies, "You need to choose your work or your education. You college kids give me nothing but trouble." I reply, "But sir, you said you would work with my college schedule, and this final schedule is important." He just says, "No, I said I would work with your college schedule. This final schedule doesn't exactly align with your college classes, so I'm not obligated to work with it. If you don't like that, you can just quit." As soon as he said that, I reply, "No problem." I then start taking off my apron, visor, name tag, and I was about to take my shirt off when the manager squeaks out, "What the heck are you doing?" I just told him I'm quitting, effective immediately. You won't comply with my finals as you're not obligated to do so. So in order to assure a passing grade in my classes, I have to attend the finals. I then took my shirt off and piled everything on his desk. I grabbed my other shirt that I had worn in that day. I put it on and walked out. I never worked another food job again. Oh man, I wish I could see the manager's face when OP just walked out, and props to OP for walking out on the spot. And seriously, did the manager really make OP choose between college and a part-time job at Waffle House, and really thought OP was going to choose Waffle House? Some managers need to learn that it's never a good idea to tell employees to quit. And this person shares their story and they say, "Let me tell you about my favorite time I've ever quit a job. I worked at a gas station a little while back, and it was terrible for a lot of reasons, so I searched for better jobs. I eventually found and interviewed for one on Friday, and I got a job offer on the spot. I was scheduled to start Monday, which also happened to be my next gas station shift. Immediately after the interview, I call my gas station manager to tell them about the job offer. Without even asking what I called for, the manager began screaming at me, saying things like, "The floor's not clean enough, and that wasn't stocked enough, blah blah blah." When I finally got a word in, I told him, "Well, there's actually something I wanted to talk to you about." And that's when the manager said, "Well, can it wait till Monday?" At that point, I was so utterly done with that job that I told the manager, yes, it can wait till Monday. When Monday came along, I showed up at the gas station well before my scheduled shift to turn my key in before starting my other job. When the manager saw me there early, he knew something was up, so he came outside to meet me, and that's when I told him about the new job, and I asked if the gas station could increase my wage to match. The manager told me, "You know I can't do that." So I say, "Okay, well, I'm gonna take the other job," before handing over my key. My manager then said, "Well, why did you wait until now to tell me? What a stupid thing to do." And that's when I replied to him saying, "Because you asked me to." The manager didn't say another word to me, but after a pause, he lets out a long groan. I then got in my car and I never looked back. So here's some background. I work at a company where I handle mid to high level complaints to managers, PR, and legal. My daily requirement is 40 cases handled per day. There are some of my team colleagues that struggle with this, but I don't. And I don't feel lazy to stop at 40. So I've actually handled 50 to 55 basically every day for the past 2 years. There's no bonus or even recognition for this. I just did it because I felt a friendly obligation to the company. The complaints can be a 5-minute resolution or a 2-hour Zoom call with our New York lawyers. It's a gamble, really. Recently, I had a day where I felt a bit sick, and at the same time, I had bad luck of only getting very hard cases that required more time. So I hit 39 cases, one under the requirement. Now I thought nothing of it, as my weekly average is way off the charts, like 50 plus as usual. The very next day, I felt better, and I went back to my usual high numbers. Come Monday, I had this emergency one-on-one with my manager, where I was informed that I had to attend this 3-day workshop/seminar on how to best meet requirements because I underperformed last week. Hearing that, my jaw dropped, and I asked, don't they count the weekly, monthly, yearly numbers? To which I was told the daily requirement is 40. You did 39, and this is standard practice. There's nothing we can do. So basically, it was a workshop for underperformers who had 20 to 30 cases per day. It was nothing hard, but I did need to drive there for 3 days after work and listen to HR guys give out bad advice. And I had to talk about what I'll do to improve my numbers to reach the 40. This made me lose hours and hours of my free time, and I was livid. After it was over, I had a long think, and I decided that I'll do exactly that. I will reach the 40, and that's it. And here's the aftermath. For the last few months, I go to work, handle 40 cases per day, which is my daily requirement, and then do nothing the rest of my shift. I've had multiple one-on-ones with my manager during this time, and I'm constantly being asked, is there something wrong? To which I naively reply, no. Am I in trouble? Am I underperforming? And then of course, they say that I'm 100% within my daily requirements, and that way, I shut the conversation down. This is real life, so I can't really say a clever comeback or something like that. But I do keep playing the fool that has no idea what's wrong now. But I find the satisfaction in knowing that they got used to my overachieving and now are suffering for the lack of it. They did put up this internal ad for promoting another 2 managers. So my guess is that's the number of people they'll now need to pay extra, just because they lost me as an overachiever, and they lost me for no reason other than their own stupidity. Yeah, what happened to OP was absolutely ridiculous, and how they didn't look at OP's performance metrics and let OP off easy is beyond me, guys, and now they have to pay for it in the end. Literally. And the audacity of OP's boss to constantly ask, what's wrong? Why are you only hitting 40 when you used to do so much more? Like, you put me in a class on how to reach the 40. I'm just applying what I was taught, boss. So I used to work in hotels in a ski town in Colorado. It was very expensive, but the quality of life is a very common saying there. I had started at a new hotel and I was making $10 an hour, living with my brother in a 2-bedroom place that was 700 square feet. The rent was half my income. When the slow season approached, I was told that I would have to move to night audit, which was a shift that ran from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. or risk being let go. Now the problem was, I lived 3 miles from the hotel and I took a bus to get there. The bus didn't run at night or early morning, so I would be walking 6 miles a day in several inches to a foot or more in snow. So I asked for a raise. They said they would get back to me but need an answer, and I needed a job, so okay, I'll work the night audit. I start the next week as an auditor, and while I'm being trained, I learn that I'm also losing a day. The other auditor works 3 days, and I'll be working 4 days, not 5. That's $320 a month hit to my income before taxes. So I'll need to be making $12.50 an hour to keep making the same thing with the cut hours. But I decide that I'm going to ask for $14 an hour. I complete the training, and I meet with the GM. He asked how I'm liking it, and I start off with my concerns. I tell him that I wasn't told I would lose a day, and with having to walk 6 miles a day in snow, I was gonna need a raise to $14 an hour. The guy lets out an audible sigh, and he tells me he can easily hire someone for this position for $10 an hour, so I need to take it or leave it. I knew it would be very hard to find a job in the winter when everything closes up, so I stayed. As I walk out of his office, he says to me, "I don't care how you do your job, just do it." So I thought to myself, okay, I will. You see, this job was easy. It was 7 hours of me doing absolutely nothing and 1 hour of actual work, which gave me plenty of time to find shortcuts. The software we used allowed us to import scripts that you downloaded from the developer site. One such script was a way to make my job literally 1 click. The problem was, it was a $500 a year license for it. Now obviously, I wouldn't propose to my GM a way to eliminate my job, but there was a free trial on every script for 7 days. I remember at the time, you can get around paywalls on news websites by going into the web console and simply removing the paywall from the source code. So I decided to see if this was something I could do with this script. And what do you know? I downloaded it, opened the script in a text editor, and the only thing making the script a trial was a line that said license EXP and had the date set 7 days out from when I downloaded it. So I changed the computer's date to 8 days from now, and I tried to run the script in our software, and I got a notification saying that the free trial had ended. So I changed it back, and I set the expiration date to 2050. This took my manual job of 1 hour and made it less than 5 minutes. That was it. And I always manually reviewed everything just in case. But that wasn't all. We had a kitchen where we made breakfast and dinner for the guests. Evening shift got free dinner and morning shift got free breakfast. I didn't get anything. They eventually decided to have the auditors set up breakfast, so the kitchen crew didn't have to come in as early. I asked if we got free breakfast, and I was told no, despite setting up everything to make their jobs easier. I should also note that we had to clean any dishes left from dinner that the kitchen didn't get to, despite not even getting any dinner. But I had the kitchen all to myself for 6 hours. So I started making my dinner around 1 a.m., whatever I wanted. The only limits were the ingredients in the kitchen, and since I was responsible for dishes from other shifts, I never left any evidence behind. I no longer had to buy food and bring it to work. So now, my job no longer requires me to do dishes, and I get free food, and all I have to do is remember the date and click a button to do my actual job. So what do I do with all of this free time? Well, I watched shows, played online games on my laptop, and started learning Spanish. The GM did say he didn't care how I did my job, just do it, so I did. I did eventually decide to move away for a much better job, far away, and I had to give up the comfy life. I trained my replacement the same way I was doing things, including the script, and I didn't teach him the manual way. Before I left though, I decided to change the trial date to 1 week out. 2 days after my last day, the front desk manager texts me and tells me that the auditor was just fired for making racist remarks to a guest, and that the guest recorded him, so he was fired once the GM got in. He asked if I could come back until they got someone else, and they would pay me $15 an hour. Unfortunately, I was leaving in 2 days, so there was no way. That's when I get a call from the GM at about 5 a.m., the day of the expiration, and he asked me about this free trial thing and why wasn't the new guy trained how to do the audit properly. That's when I remind him that he told me how he didn't care how I did my job, just to do it, so I did exactly that. I could tell he wanted to yell, but he held back. He then demands that I come back and fix it or he'll have to take legal action. That's when I told him that I was already at my new place 2,000 miles away, but I would happily do it if he paid for a plane ticket, a free room, free meals while I'm there, and $10,000. That's when he lost it and I hung up. He texted me after saying that he was contacting lawyers and that I effed up big time and prepared to face the consequences. That was 5 years ago and I haven't heard anything from him since. I did eventually go back to that town a few months ago to see my mom, and I ran into the front desk manager from that place, a really nice guy. He told me that the GM was caught messing around with the head housekeeper in his office by his wife one day. She later divorced him. And also, the 19-year-old girl working the front desk in the morning later filed harassment charges against him, and he resigned after that. I'm not sure what happened to him after that. The front desk manager now runs the place as GM, and he made sure that he, the assistant GM, and the front desk manager are all trained to do the audit the long way. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled People episode, where psycho Karens are getting arrested in airports. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.